and sad and true and all of the above.
Definitely.
So, yeah, well, that's a sad part. That's why.
But
why should
I want to hear. I want you to share where you're at, because you're at a different place.
Yes.
I mean, our emotions have moved.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a level of pain that I always move with in doing this work, because
mm-hmm.
once your eyes are open, you just see it.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't in shock as much as sort of, oh, this is another way of telling me that this is why I do what I do. So where are you at?
So that's something that I was just telling Nia between the break, is that I worked on the No on 8 campaign in California, and unfortunately it was the same thing where it's almost like we didn't want to know what the outcome was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
We thought we had a chance
Mm-hmm.
in equality in the system and changing the laws, but somewhere in the back of our minds we couldn't help but think, maybe not right now, but,
Mm-hmm.
but we want to be hopeful. We want to remain hopeful
Mm-hmm.
and look forward and think we have progressed.
Mm-hmm.
I can sit and hold hands with my loved one. I can sit and, but then why does this happen? And I was telling you earlier that I think this has had such a strong reaction because of the microaggressions that's been happening to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And some people can't name it. Some people can. So when you work with it and you can name it, it's one thing. But I know I'm still stuck in the emotion of it because I didn't find out until Sunday morning.
Okay.
And I was heated.
Mm-hmm.
I was absolutely livid.
Well, the thing is that that's the shock part that I had, because I really thought that they wouldn't come out with a decision over the weekend. Because I thought, literally from Friday on, I was posting on the Soulful Afro page like, okay, we're waiting. What does waiting feel like? Waiting is hard, you know. And the fact that it came out so late on Saturday, I think it threw me off. So everyone was like wondering what I was saying, and I wasn't ready, because I literally thought, oh, they're gonna wait and they're gonna let us know on Monday, because people are gonna take to the streets and they don't want any riots, so they're gonna wait. So when they came out on Saturday, that
Right.
I thought was the shock for me. You
They
know,
didn't think about us.
huh?
There was.
I mean, we contained ourselves, but people really took to the streets. I mean, we were there in Boston on Sunday, and it was really good to be out with folks, to feel the energy. And there was a little bit of everyone out there.
Yes.
You couldn't just say this was just black people. I mean, one of the posters that I posted was a white woman holding "Stop Criminalizing Black Men." You know, so everyone who has any mind to see the world with open eyes beyond the color of your skin has a position on this. Has a position on this. And you have to have a position on this. There's no ifs and buts about it. You know, because, you know, like the young girls that I work with, this was a young man, but young girls of color get profiled like that.
His friend is being profiled just for being on the phone.
Exactly. And for the things and the way she was speaking.
And for the way that she's being portrayed, which is irrelevant. But I think like you, like I found out on Saturday night at like 11 o'clock, and I think it didn't hit me until Sunday or Monday. Like on Saturday I found out and I was like, oh, I'm not surprised. The prosecution was doing a terrible job. I didn't realize the prosecution is state appointed. They have their own interest in upholding this law for the state of Florida. So their main priority may not have been Trayvon. Clearly it wasn't. But then even in talking to my dad about it a couple of days ago, it's just like, we didn't even go all the way into it. I sent him the letter, the James Baldwin letter, and he was like, that was a very beautiful letter. And I was like, yeah, let's talk about it. How did he feel raising a son? Who's real tall? And black? How do you feel? Like, I feel like when it did hit me, I started to think of, is there any point in having kids? No matter what I do, you know, if I birth my own children, they're gonna be black. Like, no matter who their daddy is. Like, they're gonna be, you know, like, how do I feel about raising kids in a society that's still through all this time?
But it's like, from the beginning, I've said that this is about, that boy could be my nephew. I mean, President Obama's first statement when this happened was, Trayvon Martin could be my son. And everybody went off on him because they thought he was taking too much of a strong position. But the bottom line is, Trayvon Martin could be his son. Trayvon Martin could be Christian. Trayvon Martin could be Nicolas. You know, I had engaged with a childhood friend who was like, well, anyway, this case doesn't make a difference to me. Well, you know what? I have 2 nephews, and I'm a black woman in America. It makes a difference to me. It makes a difference. We cannot ignore. This is our time to start really addressing a system that has worked against us, that has profiled us even when we cannot speak for ourselves.
Yep.
I mean, I think the part that also hits me is it's not just black men who are racially profiled. It's apparently more than the majority of our country is now browning, so like we're not even 100% white anymore.
Yeah.
Like, hello, this is not just about the black community.
Well, this is 2013, right? And you have 5 female jurors, 5 female women, white women, one who was so-called Latina black, which, yeah, that's gonna be a whole nother show. Can we just talk about that? Because basically that speaks to the internal racial struggle of Latinos to perceive themselves as white and see, I mean, hearing Juror B37 talk has been probably the most upsetting thing, even beyond the verdict to me, because then you really think, this was a woman that was sitting there listening, and she sounds like she really held these two people in the same line. Yeah, one of them, like when she said, I feel sorry for the both of them, Anderson Cooper was like, but there's one of them is dead. Like, literally, you know, like.
And then there's a juror that wants to do the book deal.
That's the same one.
Okay,
She's
that's
backed
her?
up. She's backed up.
Can't remember
now.
I can't remember the juror number.
But she generalized that all the jurors felt sick, and now 3 other jurors have come out and said that those are her positions, that that has nothing to do with them.
But to make money off of this, and to make money off of Trayvon, what does that say? And she did back off because Twitter, and as my friends quoted, they're like, no, it's Black Twitter, and if you agree, then you're going to go and protest her. And so people found her publisher and just wrote on Twitter and went crazy and were saying things. So that helped her. And she said as soon as she left the hotel, she didn't realize how much of a problem this was around America. So she realized she shouldn't take the book deal right now.
That's like the joke that the defense attorney made at the beginning of the trial. He made a joke and he was like, Zimmerman who? Well, apparently that's why they got the jurors. Because she didn't know who the hell she was talking about. She didn't know who had killed someone, who had been killed, but that was what the joke was. They wanted jurors who didn't know, hadn't heard anything about the trial, would be totally, what is it called, unbiased.
So
And they got that.
So what do you think?
And the George Zimmerman thing, the other thing about it is that how much of a reminder is it to bring into place that George Zimmerman is not white. He's got a sort of white-sounding name, he looks, very light. He's not a white man. But it still polarizes us based on race because, for all intents and purposes, whiteness is on his side. His father apparently is a judge.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, or his father's an attorney, yeah.
So.
And this is the same man that raised money from folks who thought he did good and has all this money. They're wondering what he's going to do with all this money that he has. Because remember, his wife was also helped because of all the money that they set up a website and got donations and all this stuff. So,
There's a video.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
I think the first part of the healing was to allow ourselves to sit in the emotions because that helps me very much as angry as we were.
Yeah.
So to acknowledge whether it's the anger, the frustration, the sadness, the disheartening, and to be with community because being around friends, family, calling up Yvette and being like, wait, my head is not together, I'm about to go off on someone because they looked at me funny. What's going on with me? Okay, let's simmer down. But then also being able to take to the streets in a positive community that is just as outraged so that we can do something about it positively. Because unfortunately, we can't be angry outside of our own doors. Because if we're too angry, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So where do we talk about that? Creating that dialogue, having those spaces, a healing conversation. I think that's a great place to start, but then boycotting. Taking our money where it is.
Because this is not the first time that Florida has failed Black America. I mean, it's been doing it like over and over and over again. Where do we go from here?
I think it's talking about it, it's understanding where you are, and this is probably why I've been feeling a little bit angry this week. But, it helps to put it into context, but it also helps to, I've been signing a lot of petitions to file some civil suits against George Zimmerman, to file some civil suits that come from places of really high power, whether it's NAACP or the Urban League or the Obama administration. Like, how can we get people in high places to be like, oh, we really need to take note, we can't just sit on this because look at the American public. And, I just had a friend who reminded me that grassroots actually means you. Like, don't forget, like, we're actually what drives any change that happens, because if there's not a band of people rising up from the bottom to get to the top will never hear anything.
Yeah.
They only act on things that a lot of people care about. I know that's the whole point of being a lobbyist.
Well, we have a lot
And that's
more
a
work to do.
for.
What was interesting, one of the things, like literally, the week has gone with like every day hearing something new and going, really? And one of the reallys was the fact that this same prosecution team was the prosecution, and Danielle just texted me to remind me that this is the same prosecution team that got Marissa Alexander 20 years. It was this same
When
team.
you told me that too, I was pissed.
This same prosecutor.
Yes. And people brought up another point, and I've been hearing this on both sides, and everyone is saying, where were we and where were we on the streets when Marissa was put behind bars?
Yeah.
And I think that's a very poignant question, and that's very important to remember. Where were we? Why? Right? And I didn't hear about, and sadly, I didn't hear about this until recently. I mean, this week. And why didn't I hear about this?
Yeah.
So
Where do we go from here? For me is, we need to become more aware of the system that we're functioning in. We need to sit with our youth, because it is not about blaming them, but we need to let them know that this is what they're working with. We need to let our young men know this little boy had a hood and his pants hanging. And that, yes, it's culture, and yes, it's self-expression, but it's getting in the way. We need to talk about how we get upset when everybody else uses the N-word. We need to also reflect on what it means when we use it. Like, there's little things, big things, that I think we need to talk about within ourselves. We don't need, like, literally Sunday, I was talking to one of my sisters, and I was like, we're going to this march, but if I have to deal with, seriously, a bunch of white folks that are going to be telling us, you can be our ally, but you still will not know what it feels like to be walking with this. So it has to be our conversation, led by us, directed by us, shaped by us, for our outcome, not anybody else's. And it's not about being anti-white, because everyone thinks that when you become pro-black, you mean you're anti-white. No, I'm just pro-black, period. That's all it is. I have white allies, we have white folks that work closely with us, and I'm all cool with that. I have white friends that are dear to me, that I know will support anything I do. But at the end of the day, we need to walk through that door first. If the conversation is about us, we need to be the ones leading it.
We need to spearhead the conversation. Spearhead the movement.
Exactly.
But who's leading the movement?
Well, we're.
We choosing the leader, or we just step
Well, we don't have.
do it.
No, and cuando de aspera, we ain't waiting for nobody.
right.
We're just doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're doing it in a way that no one else is doing it, and tapping things that no one else is going to tap. Because the conversation also within this case is the Latino mindset around race and self-identifying. Because if this woman's face ever shows, and if it means that she can pass, what does that mean? And if she can't, still what does that mean?
And we have to be careful of who we put. If there's a leader, what does that mean? And I'm thinking back to when I did the Prop 8 campaign and everything else after the LGBT outcome, still gay white men. What happens? What happens there? Where are we? Where's the immigration conversation? Where's the other pieces?
Yeah.
Where are the other pieces? So then how do we move forward? And I think Encuentro's doing.
Yeah. And the thing is that this show could not go on tonight without us having this conversation. It's actually, one of the things that we learned as a trauma responder is that when you are traumatized, when you have a traumatic incident, the work as a trauma responder or a clinician is to work with the person so that the trauma gets to the back of their heads. That it is always going to be a part of them, but it's not in their face. And I think right now, race relation is like in our face. So we are functioning with a society, people go and they have to get diagnosed. We have a society that's PTSD right now. We are post-traumatic slavery disorder. Because even though we were not directly impacted by slavery, bottom line is, it is playing itself out on us. On every generation since.
The Willie Lynch letter.
And some of us have fallen for it.
hard.
Because we'll come at each other harder than hard.
You know what I just thought of right now, and I just want to say this real quick because I think I'm going to forget about it because I do that sometimes, is we haven't brought up gun violence. Have you noticed that? Usually in the white community is the first thing that I've heard on the radio, TV, Facebook, and even communities that are, and I completely understand gun violence, personally. So, you know, it's something that is to be said though when it is about race because they wanted to continue to point at it as the gun. And is it being targeted on the gun? So I just thought that was really interesting.
But I feel like if the cards were changed, it would be a completely different emphasis. They wouldn't be talking about, oh, this black man shot this young Latino white boy. They would be, oh, he had a gun. This is another reason that we should strike down gun laws.
Exactly.
So
Except that it's Florida.
we're gonna close.
You have a message.
Huh?
You have a message from Robin from Puerto Rico on Voice Gas. She says she's watching, and she agrees with what you guys are saying.
Oh, wonderful.
And,
Robin's one of our has been our guest on the show. So that's wonderful to hear that she's there and she's with us still.
And she says she wish she were in school to process this with students this week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, Robin, I know you're listening, you're watching. Mija, cuando regreses, tenemos un montón de trabajo. I mean, literally, that has been my thought, is that if this was during the school year, what would this mean to the kids that we're working with? I cannot wait till school starts to jump right in it with the girls from the Her Project and the boys that we're going to be working with at the Margarita Muniz, which is where Robin works. Because the kids don't have a space right now to really process it, because we're not, I mean, that's something that we need to do. We need to call a community gathering for kids to really voice, to voice their concern, because I think I'm concerned about our young men and women. I'm concerned about our young men and women. So we're going to close this segment out.
Another one from Dizia.
Uh-huh.
She says she agrees with you as well.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad that people are letting us know. One of the things is we're going to continue this conversation for the rest of the month on the Soulful Afro with Yvette page on Facebook. So really, you know, we need to challenge ourselves. And I really think the boycotting, the really analyzing the racism that exists, the colorism that exists within America. You know, there is I put a quote by both Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela talk about, we cannot be at peace until we're fully free. And we don't have this on our hands and we don't have it on our feet, but it's so on our minds because we are stuck. The system has us stuck. We may want to move. All three of us as women of color are wanting to move, but we cannot deny the fact that this week we have felt stuck. We have felt emotionally stuck. So we are not fully free in the context of where we are at as a people. So we're going to close out with this topic. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to get into why we have these drinks on the table and my beautiful plate with the mangoes and what these three things are. And we're going to have some little summer fun topics. And we'll be right back.